top three problems in the universe are wars, climate, and superbugs, right?
Wow.
And I'd like to share with you, Pesh, and your folks that I'm actually presenting at the United Nations next month. I'm coming to New York, the United Nations General Assembly. I'm one of the invitees to speak about superbugs and climate change. Yeah,
Awesome.
because bugs have no borders. There are no passports for bugs, right? A
Mm,
drug infection picked up in Sri Lanka can
mhm,
make it to the Bay Area and vice versa.
mhm.
And COVID was the great example of how no one is safe until everyone is safe.
Right.
And one wintry afternoon in Bangalore, I was
Mhm.
sitting with friends from the Bay Area who are also in semiconductors. I kept scratching our head and saying, can we use computer simulation techniques, Verilog, VHDL, SPICE language, which is used for analog circuits to simulate biology? Believe it or not,
Right.
that germinated as a thought. And that thought led to CellWorks. And
Mm.
now the CellWorks has been around for 16, 17 years. And believe it or not, it's the first company in the world that used electronics simulation techniques to simulate human cancer because
Wow.
nobody was working on this space.
Yeah.
The big pharmaceutical companies rather work on cancer and diabetes and blood pressure and CNS
Mm.
where there is money. But we said, let's go fix a big problem. And we started Bugworks. And today I'd like to share with your audience that we are the top 2 or 3 companies in the universe in inventing a completely novel class of antibiotic.
Awesome.
We're
Awesome.
still, I believe that investment in science is absolutely necessary so that healthcare can become a universal goal
Hmm.
for the world. It should be like saying that you have running water coming
Yeah.
into your house. Wow, really?
Yeah.
Like it's on here, right? I don't sit back thinking, wow, I turn on the lights on.
Mm.
Why is healthcare, universal healthcare such a big deal even in 2024 when we have such advanced societies like the United States, Western Europe, even India that's advanced?
Hi, viewers. My name is Upesh Jain. Greetings from the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm the host of the Exec Talk channel, a forum I started to talk to CEOs, executives, and other luminaries about their journeys and distill their experiences and learnings for our viewers' benefit. Today, we have the privilege of talking to Dr. Anandkumar, co-founder and CEO of Bugworks, a US and India-based company which comprises of a group of scientists who are developing a novel class of broad-spectrum antibacterial and anti-cancer agents to treat patients worldwide with their go-to-globe strategy. Dr. Anand Kumar has 30 years of work experience spanning semiconductors, electronic design automation, biotech, and pharmaceutical industries. Before Bugworks, he founded Cellworks, iShield, Impress Health, and Escape Velocity Accelerator. He has C-suite experience in US, India, China, Japan regions, and personally, he is deeply committed to making a difference to the world. He is also the managing trustee for Child, which is a home for children orphaned by HIV/AIDS. Dr. Anand Kumar has a BE in Electronics and Communication from Guindy Engineering College, a well-known college from Anna University, Chennai, India, and a master's and PhD in Electrical and Biomedical Engineering from George Washington University in the USA. He currently resides in Bangalore, India. Anand, welcome to my channel, and I'm really excited to be talking to you, catching up on your trajectory since our Magma days, and knowing more about your journey, especially your transition from semiconductors to biopharma.
Thank you so much, Upesh. It's an absolute privilege to reconnect with you, particularly on this platform. I'm excited for our conversation and the opportunity to connect with many people who watch your podcast. And thank you for that kind introduction. I'm humbled.
You're very welcome, Anand. So let's get straight into the Q&A. And first of all, my viewers would like to know who is Dr. Anand Kumar, the person, and tell us about your early life and what kind of makes you tick.
Thanks. Difficult question because it makes one introspect, but a very important question. So I was raised in Chennai, which is one of the largest cities in India, in the south of India. And I came from a family filled with doctors, Upesh, right? My dad was a very famous doctor, was the head of the local Madras Medical College. And his claim to fame was that he treated TB patients for about 50 years. And the first HIV/AIDS patient in India walked into my house when I was growing up in the 80s, right? And no other doctor wanted to touch HIV/AIDS patients, and dad spawned off the entire HIV medical fraternity in India. So I was raised in that kind of a background. Took up engineering uh, because I thought I would never match up to the family. I was okay in studies. My brother, my father were icons, and I thought I would never be able to match up to the family. And although I had a medical seat in Chennai, I took Gindi Engineering College in engineering, and that's where I started life. Never wanted to leave India. I'm a musician, so I was singing through school and college, and I thought I'd just be a musician. But my parents, rightfully so, I guess, basically channeled my energies to go to the US, and that's how I ended up in the US. I think in the initial years working in the US, I was just focused on career, green card, US citizenship, all the typical things that all of us have to do. Um, I don't think philanthropy or wanting to do something to change the world was important for me at all, right? I was a hard top, very much driven, career focused person and worked at Cadence for many years where you are now, Upesh, and had a fantastic career there. And I came back to India in the early 2000s to do a couple of companies in the electronics design space. And then something changed in my 40s. I woke up, I woke up to a new reality. And I think my own crises that I faced in my personal life with my health changed me. Made me to be a much better person. And we'll talk about it subsequently. But my entire wiring in wanting to do something so meaningful that it can change the world in ways that can have lasting impact long after my life, I think happened in my early 40s. And I'm sure we'll get an opportunity to talk about it. So philanthropy, using science to solve large problems of society, superbugs and climate. This
Yeah.
is who I am today.
Excellent. I mean, let me touch upon a few points in the narrative you just did. I mean, clearly your father and your brother were role models or icons, as you said, in your life, and you felt they had very big shoes to fill. And so that was one thing. Then, in terms of transformation or progression, you uh, did what pretty much everybody in that age group does in their 20s. They're so focused on education, their career, and just, being able to earn a living. And then something happens in midlife where you start thinking bigger than what you were. And seems to be that was the case with you as well. Is that an accurate kind of capture of what
Perfect
you
capture.
stated? Yeah.
Perfect capture.
Okay.
Only nuance to what you said is,
Mm-hmm.
I think subconsciously, I
Mm-hmm.
always want to do something in the medical field because I
I,
grew up with this and I've seen thousands of patients snaking around our house, waiting for my
mm-hmm.
father, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of felt bad that I didn't take up the medical education, but never in my wildest dream, a semiconductor physicist, chip design guy would have
Mm-hmm.
ever thought that he would re-enter science and re-enter medical through drug discovery. But you're absolutely right. I think the subconscious feeling of wanting to do something big in healthcare was
Mm-hmm.
probably always there.
Yeah.
And if I did not have those crises that I faced with my health, I don't think that subconscious would have come up. So I just took advantage of
Mm-hmm.
what looked like a dire situation in my late 30s and early 40s
Mm-hmm.
to sort of rediscover myself.
Wow. Okay. So, what was the reason for getting your degrees in the US and then going back? There must
Right.
be some reason to go back. Most people end up staying here.
Right.
And so, what was that kind of
So you had
reason?
thanks, Upesh. You had two questions. One, I think coming to US, everybody in my batch was going to
Mhm.
US. Like
Okay.
I'm a couple of years senior to you, so it's a standard destination, if you will, the
Mhm.
best graduate programs, clearly United States. It's still the case.
Hmm.
So everyone is going, all your friends are going, your parents are like, hey, you're not going to just stay and be singing in India.
Hmm.
Please go to the US. So I said, okay, I'll go to the US. Last minute applied with my GRE TOEFLs. And I couldn't afford to pay tuition from family. So luckily I got scholarship. And throughout my master's and PhD, I studied through scholarship, and teaching was my passion. So I taught throughout my master's and PhD, Upesh, and
Hmm.
that allowed me to explore early passions, connecting with young students younger than me,
Hmm.
and et cetera, and started working as a chip designer. That's how you and I met
Hmm.
in the Bay Area. Initially, I worked in Washington for Hughes Network
Hmm.
Systems, and then moved to Cadence in the Bay Area. And my wife and I used to constantly think about whether we'd go to India, and it was not a done thing to
Hmm.
move out of the Bay Area, which is like the bastion, it still is the bastion for semiconductor work. To move to India was not a done deal, but I
Hmm.
got a fantastic opportunity from a Cadence spin-out company called Spin Circuit in those days,
Right.
and somehow they trusted me.
Hmm.
Which That's luck, right? They
Yeah.
somehow trusted that this guy who was in his early 30s, who has never worked in India, I went as a student,
Hmm.
would be able to manage their center in India. Somehow they had that feeling and trust. It's all luck. And this is how you say the dots get joined. I
Yeah.
was supposed to come back to India only for 2 years, maintain my expat status, so I
Hmm.
never leave the US per se, and go back.
I
It's
see.
been 24 years since I came to India, and there's no looking back. I saw the information technology wave taking off.
Hmm.
We saw the semiconductor wave taking off, and then I'm seeing the biotechnology wave taking off. And I want to share with your audiences that I'm one of the three co-founders of the Indian Semiconductor Association that
Wow.
we did back in 2003 or 2004. And now it's got whatever, right? 350 companies or what have you. So I feel very proud to have co-founded the Indian Semiconductor Association and
Hmm.
doing similar things in the Indian Biotech Association.
Wow. So first of all, it wasn't just luck. It was also a trust in your capability, which I know very well. So that gave you that opportunity with Spin Circuit. So it's a combination of the opportunity arising and your capabilities. And secondly, I mean, sometimes, as we say, it's the hand of God that kind of makes you do things, and that you didn't plan to, and things just happen. So
They
so
did.
great. So you started your career in semiconductors and then pivoted to EDA, which are sort of related. Tell us about that phase of your life. What did you enjoy? What did you kind of feel challenged on, and so on and so forth?
So, Upesh, as you know, semiconductor industry is like unbelievable. It's ubiquitous. Everything we do,
Hmm.
including this video conference, is driven at its heart by semiconductors. So I first started working in Hughes Network Systems, which is a satellite engineering company, and I had an opportunity to design chips for the satellite communication, uh, very small aperture terminal, VSATs.
Hmm.
And as luck would have it, the entire semiconductor industry was changing because people were going away from doing manual things to using advanced tools. It's not AI machine learning, but it's
Hmm.
the equivalent of how AI and machine learning are upending technology today. The
Hmm.
equivalent of that was those new tools that were coming through, languages like Verilog, VHDL, synthesis,
Hmm.
advanced place and route, etc. And I was one of those early guys who got into that.
I see.
And to be very honest, I wouldn't consider myself as a great designer. I have to be honest about it. But I was able to pick up those tools, and I was able to work with teams and Hughes to change these old timers who are doing design with schematics
Hmm.
to think higher level. And that's a huge challenge because they've been doing work for 15, 20 years in a particular way. And so uh, to be able to bring in these new tools and technologies and become the tool or platform or methodology expert became very exciting. And I found myself naturally gravitating to these new tools and technologies and methods than I did to hardcore engineering and hardcore design. So it was a very exciting time at Hughes. And then with Hughes, I moved into Cadence in the Bay Area. And what I enjoyed the most was working with the number of customers that Cadence had. And very quickly, I therefore figured out that my strength was not, sitting in the desk and doing design. My strength was working with teams,
Mm-hmm.
international teams, and working with customers. So I think figuring out what you're not good at and
Mm-hmm.
also figuring out what you're good at early in the career, I think that introspection and doing an honest introspection of what you're not good at and what you're good at helped me a lot to understand that working with global teams,
Mm-hmm.
bringing new methods and techniques, working with smart people from whom I can learn constantly. This has been my mantra throughout, as it is even today,
Yeah.
in my drug discovery journey.
Well said. Yeah. So that was a great phase of your life, and looks like the learning was tremendous, and introspection, discovery about yourself was also quite a bit. But then, what caused the move to a totally different market segment?
Yeah.
How come the move to biopharma? Tell us a little bit about this, including your foray into the current space, or maybe the previous space with the cell
So,
works. Yeah.
right. It's interesting, right, Upesh, how life's journeys are, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think fortunate are those who are able to look deep within and figure out, why did I take birth?
Mm-hmm.
There must be a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I started asking those questions in my mid 30s to say, I was enjoying semiconductors, such a brilliant area.
Mm-hmm.
Electronic design automation is outstanding. I still miss the energy, the intellect, those connections, beautiful areas.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I started looking deeply within. And I got hit very early with health issues. I had
Okay.
just moved to India, spin circuit was going okay,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a myocardial infarct very early in my life because of bad familial genes.
Mm-hmm.
And I survived two cancers in my late 30s, right?
Wow.
And I had a choice to make, Pesh. I
Mm-hmm.
could either say, man, I lead such a healthy life, and I got hit with three, life-changing events. Why is this happening to me? Or I could look at myself and say, wow, you're the luckiest person on this planet. And you are meant to do something that can make a huge difference. Not that semiconductor and EDA doesn't make a difference. It makes a difference to a lot of people. But I
Absolutely.
want to do something directly in the health and biology space
Mm-hmm.
that could make a difference to people. Started thinking and said,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything about biology. Can I use semiconductor techniques to get into biology? Believe it or not.
Right.
And one wintry afternoon in Bangalore, I
Mm-hmm.
was sitting with friends from the Bay Area who are also in semiconductors. I kept scratching our head and saying, can we use computer simulation techniques, Verilog, VHDL, SPICE language, which is used for analog circuits to simulate biology? Believe it or not,
Right.
that germinated as a thought. And that thought led to CellWorks. And
Mm.
now the CellWorks has been around for 16, 17 years. And believe it or not, it's the first company in the world that use electronics simulation techniques to simulate human cancer.
Wow.
So we had a bunch of biologists, a bunch of cancer specialists, and a bunch of EDA people come together
Mm.
and take the basic biochemistry of cancer pathways,
Mm-hmm.
genomics, proteomics, transcriptomics, and use mathematical simulation algorithms well before NVIDIA, well before AI machine learning, well before GPUs,
Right.
but we could do such things. That's what made it. And it's interesting. I told myself that I would beat my cancer by starting a cancer company,
Wow.
right?
Uh,
And use mathematical techniques and bleed over from semiconductors and EDA into biology, and the rest is history. It became the first company to simulate cancer patients' biopsies and come out with better treatment for hard to treat cancers. And
mm.
CellWorks is a precursor to what I'm doing now, which is Bugworks, which I'm sure we'll get a chance to speak about. So I think it is the confluence of the subconscious,
Mm-hmm.
it's the confluence of what could have devastated me, life-changing events,
Yeah.
and the basic ignorance, maybe, of
Mm.
not knowing it all. I still don't know it all. But just the audacious goal of saying, can I move from electronic design automation into biology and get into drug discovery? Not because I knew things, it was just because of a dream. And then you make things happen.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything starts with a seed or an idea. and
Well
it's
said. Well
people
said.
who it's people who kind of groom it and embellish it and take it forward. So looks like that was the motivation. Somewhere there's this restlessness within caused by either life events or doing good for the world or the purpose of why you're here, as you said, and that kind of transforms into a real idea. Uh,
Absolutely, very well said. I think you
Mhm.
you you you
Road.
juxtaposed everything I said
Yeah.
perfectly. It's that seed, and I think as histrionic as it may sound, you can dream without any contours.
Hmm.
And if you want to do truly good
Hmm.
without your personal interests in mind, I believe in alchemy. Things just align to make magic happen. I believe in alchemy because I've experienced alchemy.
Yeah. And you're much further along than where you started. So looking back, it must be quite fulfilling also that you actually took that step and what it's done to the people around you.
Absolutely,
And
Upesh.
yeah,
There are insecurities because you're
yeah,
moving away from
of
semiconductors
course.
and EDA that you're so comfortable with.
Hmm.
It's a space I love and respect so much even today.
Yeah.
To move to a completely new area and to ask the dumbest of questions, even though you're the CEO,
Hmm.
to your junior most employees
Hmm.
can create a lot of insecurity and disquiet. But again, I converted that into a huge advantage where I said, if you're fully exposed and you say, I'm going to go and learn from everybody in your team because you're the kid in the candy shop
Hmm.
with the acquisitiveness, actually your team loves you and they respect you because then, if they're saying that the guy who started the company is coming and trying to learn basic microbiology and biochemistry, maybe we should all learn. So it
Yeah.
creates a culture where, it's okay. And honestly, I don't mean to be, try to be humble for the sake of humble.
No, no, no.
I do ask the
That's where the
simplest question.
learning is in
Exactly.
reality. It's going from a state of unconscious incompetence to a state of conscious incompetence, and then going to a
Conscious.
state of conscious competence, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah. So, so that's awesome. And then how did Bugworks come about?
Yeah.
Looks like it got started in 2021, which was in the heart of the pandemic.
Actually started before that, Upesh, and I think your audience are going to like this segment.
Okay.
One of the top three problems in the universe are wars, climate, and superbugs, right?
Wow.
And I'd like to share with you, Upesh, and your folks that I'm actually presenting at the United Nations next month. I'm coming to New York, the United Nations General Assembly. I'm one of the invitees to speak about superbugs and climate change. Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
When I was at Cellworks, when we were modeling and simulating cancer, I got interested in modeling and simulating TB. It's a
Hmm.
poor man's disease. It only hurts the low to medium income countries. Several million are impacted by tuberculosis. I
Hmm.
told you my father was one of the top leading exponents of TB in this country.
Hmm.
We took the same simulation platform that we had built for oncology and
Hmm.
started simulating TB. And a local pharmaceutical company in India called AstraZeneca, global company, local operation, and I came together. That's how I brought modeling and simulation from Bugworks. Look at the journey,
Hmm.
along with hardcore drug discovery pharma people together. I said, oh, wow, you're an electronics engineer and you're using spice-like simulation to model
Yeah.
TB?
Mm.
Okay. Why don't you come out with new combinations of what will work for drug-resistant TB? And they did the testing. That got funded by the Wellcome Trust in the UK. And I said, wait a minute, maybe I can spin out an infection company. My
Mm.
father motivated me and said, you know what? Lots of people are working on cancer, but infection is really the poor man's disease.
Hmm.
And a novel antibiotic has not been discovered since the 1970s, Upesh, since the
Wow.
19th. Every day I used to wake up to the newspaper in India talking about thousands of children dying in India, babies dying to sepsis, people
Mm.
dying all over the country because of drug-resistant bacteria. That
Mm.
means your existing antibiotics don't work because we have abused antibiotics and the bacteria have adopted, changed, mutated. You can't kill them. That's called drug-resistant superbugs. It wasn't a problem in the United States at that
Hmm.
time because bugs have no borders. There are no passports for bugs, right? A drug infection picked up in Sri Lanka can make it to the Bay Area and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
And COVID was the great example of how no one is safe until everyone is safe.
Right.
So I actually started Bugworks in 2014 and 2015, not 2021. We spun it out from Cellworks and said, can from India, which has got the worst drug-resistant problem, can we invent a completely new antibiotic for the universe? Right? Alexander Fleming, Sir Alexander Fleming came out with
Penicillin
penicillin
guy. Yeah.
100 years ago. Since then, there's only been about 7 or 8 classes of antibiotics because they've done such a great job. They're cheap, they're affordable. Nobody really puts money, but now we run out of steam. That idea of the Cellworks team that was working on infection, AstraZeneca, and a huge unmet need. Let's put Bugworks together to invent a novel class. We must have been smoking something really strong because nobody was working on this space.
Yeah.
The big pharmaceutical companies rather work on cancer and diabetes and blood pressure and CNS where there is money. But we said, let's go fix a big problem. And we started Bugworks. And today I'd like to share with your audience that we are the top 2 or 3 companies in the universe, in inventing a completely novel class of antibiotics.
Awesome.
We're still a long way off. We're only in phase 1 clinical trial. It's many, many more years before an idea and a science becomes a real product. But the WHO has put us right there up in the pipeline. And we hope that we can save millions of lives every year when this antibiotic comes out. It can save people from pneumonia, to intra-abdominal infection, to urinary tract infection, to bloodstream infection, sexually transmitted diseases. And we also work on all the bioterrorism bacteria. So it's like anthrax, plague, etc. So there's a public health that we help with, and there is also a biodefense or biopreparedness that we work in. I'm so excited.
Yeah. No, I mean, the impact seems endless almost. And, seems like some of the diseases that are on the radar screen, like cancers and diabetes, receive the attention. But this seems like a highly impactful set of diseases that are not that are rampant but not as well known, that you're trying to address, and the figures in terms of casualties because of that is in line with the other 2 I mentioned. So you've kind of picked up an area that wasn't as apparent to people, and that's the area you're trying to address, looks like.
I'd like to thank you for that nuance, Krish. Is that almost 5.5 to 6 million people die every year owing to untreatable bacterial infections, not viral, bacterial infection. Bacteria is a slow monster. It's not like COVID that comes and wipes out the earth and goes off. It doesn't have those cycles. But bacterial mortality is very high. Whereas in virus, the mortality was very low, which is why most of us are still alive and kicking post-COVID. Most of the mortality of this 5 to 6 million happens in low to medium income countries, Sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America, Southeast Asia, etc., etc. Therefore, the big pharmaceutical companies don't care about servicing. Now that it's come to the West, Western Europe, UK, US, etc., if you do a Google search on the word drug-resistant bacteria, the US is also worried. There's salmonella deaths happening, coli deaths happening, right? People with cystic fibrosis in the United States are finding it very hard to be treated because those bugs have become, very resistant to antibiotics. Now that it has started becoming a humanity's total problem, there is little more attention. But when we started it, it is a low to medium income country problem. So there is absolutely no attention. So the fact that it is spreading everywhere, plus COVID, has raised the bar on the awareness that an invisible bug can wipe us out.
Yeah. Well, it's awesome that you're addressing an area that wasn't addressed before, or people thought was not important enough to address, right? So that's really an awesome piece of work that you're doing, Anand. So Anand, I hear you teach as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about it? What does that experience give to you in parallel to running a company? I mean, I just want to know your thoughts on that.
Please allow me to answer this in a couple of ways. When I
Sure.
was in the United States, I was always teaching chip design,
Hmm.
either EDA or analog integrated circuits. Is to enjoy teaching because, as I said, my entire master's and PhD I was teaching.
Hmm.
And again, it allows you to connect with a wide set of people who are sitting.
Hmm.
B, it challenges you because some of the best questions come from students. You may not have the answers, and it can be a quite humbling experience, a great learning experience for sure, too. Three, I think what I did not learn in my undergraduate education because I just enjoyed and played through my undergrad, I picked up in my grad school only through teaching. My best learnings happened through my teachings because it's not that I was a very academic student in my undergrad. So I found that
Right.
every time I taught digital integrated circuits, analog integrated circuits, microprocessor design, then Verilog, we taught Verilog for a long time. That's why I had my maximum learnings.
Yeah.
After I came to India, that
Hmm.
dropped because I was
Hmm.
busy with doing so many startup companies, started Indian Semiconductor Association, blah, blah, blah. But where I am teaching now is through my own orphanage or
Hmm.
foundation that I've been running, co-running since
Hmm.
2006. So it's been about 18 years. So the teaching is a teaching of values
Hmm.
to children who don't have, you know, families and parents whom we take care of. So I'm teaching much more important basic things, universal love, universal values, compassion,
Hmm.
basic math, basic English, and I'm enjoying it immensely because the audience that I'm speaking to have nothing.
Right.
They have been picked up from dustbins. They've
Yeah.
been picked up from platforms in poor parts of India, and to have the ability to get their love and their adulation and
Hmm.
teach them simple basic concepts,
Right.
I feel
They
like the
don't
richest.
even know what they don't even know, right?
They
In some
don't even
ways.
know what they don't even know. So the ability to connect with them gives me a satisfaction that I don't even know how to explain to your audience.
That's wonderful. What a noble reason to teach, and for people such as you mentioned, the only way to go is up, and you're being a catalyst in that effort. So kudos to you, Anand, for doing that.
Thank you, Upesh. And I just want to add something for your
Yeah,
audiences. When you
please.
connect with people who have absolutely nothing, right? I'll be very honest.
Yeah.
Actually, they're not doing much for them. They're doing much more for us than we are doing. Because I go in with the frame of mind saying, I haven't closed my funding, my Series B is struggling,
Mm-hmm.
my board of directors is this, when are we going to exit? All these thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go and sit with someone who has absolutely nothing,
Mm-hmm.
but they have the most joyous smile and full of love,
Yeah.
right? And just want to spend time with you. And you say, wow, who is benefiting more by this interaction?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
answer is very clear. I am not really doing anybody a favor. I'll be very honest.
Yeah.
It clears my head, it grounds me,
Yeah.
and gives me a perspective that you can't read in textbooks and get an experiential perspective
That's
like
right.
that.
Yeah, but at the same time, it takes two to tango. So, I mean, it's a symbiotic relationship in some ways. So, but the part where you're actually taking time to do this is commendable. So, uh, that's what I want to highlight. So, changing gears a little bit, the world changed during and post COVID, right? What is your view of the pandemic, and what have you learned from it, especially because you're associated with pharma and biopharma, etc.?
Right. Very, very deep question,
Yeah,
multi-layered question.
yeah.
I think it was shocking what happened, but it was not unexpected for those of us who work in this space.
Hmm.
Climate change and the way humans are getting into forest areas and interacting with animals the way we have never done since
Hmm.
Homo sapiens were on Earth is a primary reason why there is this human animal interface happening at levels and layers that we never knew even 50 years ago. In the last 40 to 50 years, we have basically messed up the environment so much where bugs are getting much more smarter.
Hmm.
Remember, for your audience, Bugs are far smarter than us because they've been around long before us and will be there long after us.
Yeah.
Why? That means they know how to live in the hottest of hot spas. They can be
Mhm.
in suspended animation for millions of years in a glacier. You and I can't. We'll be
Mhm.
gone, right? So these,
And they don't have any hang-ups.
and they have no hang-ups and they have no borders,
Right,
passports.
right. Yeah.
So COVID in our contemporary time taught us that as advanced a society we may be with our software, with our defense equipment, with our cities, etc., a microorganism can wipe us out. Had SARS and MERS not happened in 2003 and 4, you and I may not be alive today. We got lucky that some vaccine research that started in 2004 and 5 that was abandoned and put on the shelf
Mhm.
was taken, dusted, and quickly restarted. And
Wow.
we got lucky, right? The vaccines came in, mRNA vaccines, as well as the other vaccines came in. So it taught us a few things. One, invest in science. If we
Mhm.
don't invest in science, we will not be ready for the next pandemic. Two, it also taught us that climate change and human behaviors are causing much more human-animal conflict and
Mhm.
human-animal interface like it never happened before. Three, I genuinely feel, and this is just me speaking, that the virus actually escaped from the lab
Mhm.
where it first came out. I don't think it was malintention,
Mhm.
but there was a safety issue and it must have escaped because it's too coincidental that where uh, virus research was happening, coronavirus research is
Mhm.
happening within a few miles from there, the first cases broke out. So that's for another day
Mhm.
discussion.
Right.
Um, it also taught us that we have to be thankful to science and scientists who
Mhm.
kept millions of people alive. While
Absolutely.
science and scientists don't get paid
Mhm.
as much as many other fields do, like finance, engineering, etc., I'm happy for those areas.
Mhm.
If science and scientists did not come and deliver those vaccines, my God, can you imagine what would have happened to a
Yeah.
planet of
Outcome would have been terrible.
so
Yeah.
these were all the learnings. And the other big learning is another pandemic is just around the corner. We have not learned our lessons yet. Still, wet markets are open. We are
Mhm.
still bulldozing our way through the Amazon and going to thick jungles that humanity has never visited. We are
Mhm.
still messing up land in India, in China, in the United States, etc. We are still abusing the few antibiotics and antivirals we have with us because animal protein like cattle and
Mhm.
poultry and pig industry are also using it. So
Mhm.
because humanity has become so huge, 8.2 billion people on the planet, our protein requirements need us to use antivirals and antibacterials in the food chain. We're talking about a huge problem, right? And if we don't continue to invest in science, I'm afraid the next pandemic won't be as kind as
Mhm.
was.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, So, Anand, you touched upon your teaching and how you're doing that for a certain segment of society, but you've also been working with some need-based organizations. You touched upon it since 2006, and it kind of ties into what your father was doing with HIV/AIDS patients. Can you talk a little bit about that,
Yes.
please?
Uh, in 2005 or 6, I got involved with this agent um, group called Child.
Mhm.
Um, there were just 5 children at that point in time. And this amazing guy who was a very, very poor man
Mhm.
was trying to help the whole HIV ecosystem
Mm.
by distributing condoms in the truck stops to prevent the spread of HIV.
Mm.
And then when he worked in the hospitals for HIV, he found that parents were dying and children were just abandoned like luggage that
Mm.
these people, it's like thrown luggage. And he picked up 5 kids
Mm.
from very poor hospitals and started Child.
Mm.
I was very lucky to be introduced to him within 1 year of starting Child, and the rest is history. I
Yeah.
became a co-founding trustee of Child. And
Mhm.
this fit in very well with my father's work in HIV/AIDS.
Right.
Like I said, I'd like to repeat, the
Mm.
patient number one in a massive country of India
Mhm.
walked through my father's clinic. So I'm very proud of that, right? And he spawned off the whole HIV
Mhm.
treatment in India. So started working, and then we built up a home, Upesh, where we have 25 boys
Mm-hmm.
who stay in a residential house in Chennai
Mm-hmm.
and who attend good schools, and we take care of them until they can get to college or until they can get a job. They are not HIV positive, they're HIV negative, but their parents may have died owing to HIV.
I see.
Thankfully, the HIV rates have come down to page to now where these boys are not just children of HIV parents.
Mm-hmm.
They can be children of sex workers
Mm-hmm.
or any abandoned, right?
Right.
So phase one of what we did was 25 boys residential program. They come in when they're 6 or 7. They're our children till they graduate. They'll always be our children, but they graduate and go
Mm-hmm.
on.
Right.
Phase two, we started working with girls,
Mm-hmm.
young women with HIV, and we
Mm-hmm.
have about 125 beautiful angels that
Mm-hmm.
we take care of to
Mm-hmm.
ensure that she's safe
Mm-hmm.
and predators don't get to her.
Mm-hmm.
She gets an education and gets a job. Phase
Mm-hmm.
two. And the third phase, which I just begun 2 months ago, is we are launching a vocational training center
Mm-hmm.
for girls who come from extremely poor backgrounds. Because in India,
Yeah.
getting a degree doesn't mean you're going to get a job. Everybody's looking for skills. I
Right.
think it's even in the United States. So if you
Right.
can get her to learn accounting skills or basic Python skills or tailoring skills or makeup artist skills,
Mm-hmm.
something that's skill-based where she can find employment, that's our phase three of what we're doing. So this has also changed me. You asked a question right up front. What defines me? Child defines me.
Mm-hmm.
The ability to work with children who come from the poorest of poor backgrounds, highly abandoned, who have seen their father, mothers die of disease or die because somebody chopped off their head,
Mm-hmm.
toughest of backgrounds. And then when they go through child and they're transformed and they're good citizens who are doing good for society, no amount of stock option can give that happiness
Totally. Or bank balance. Yeah.
or bank balance. So well
Yeah.
said.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And you see that happening right in front of you. So, so that's just such an awesome cause, Anand. Keep it up. That's all I can think
Thank
of
you so much.
saying at this point. So Anand, we're kind of in the home stretch of our talk, and how do you keep yourself motivated and current, and multiplex so many things? You're a busy man, so when you get up in the morning, what keeps you motivated?
I'm heavily into yoga and
Nice.
meditation. I've been doing yoga for about 20 years now. Started in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
I think um, the ancient arts in India, like yoga and meditation, are phenomenal. I think the
Mm-hmm.
whole world is waking up to the reality that some thousands of years ago, our ancient Indians figured out things that before anatomy and physiology and neurology were sciences.
Mm-hmm.
That helps me a lot. And I speak a lot to myself, and I
Mm-hmm.
wake up this world map that's behind me, right? And I sometimes just look at the world map and say, my God, such a small world. And in that small world, I'm not even a speck.
Mm-hmm.
What a lovely opportunity I have that if Bugworks is successful, it's still an if,
Mm-hmm.
because there's so many tough challenges
Of
that
course.
this in this life of mine, I have an opportunity to do something that's going to go on that entire picture, right? That motivates me.
Right.
And nobody in that picture is going to know who I am. That's even better. If you're able to do something that's going to go around the world, and you don't have to be an Elon Musk, or I'm
Mm-hmm.
not interested in making anything, that's fantastic. That's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely fantastic, because no one in that map is going to know I existed. Maybe few would, most will not know, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But my sense of satisfaction is I'm giving something back to that small world of ours,
Mm-hmm.
right? And make it better, slightly better than it was when I was born 60 years ago.
Yeah.
Incidentally, the last new antibiotic was invented when I was born.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, as they say, each generation climbs on the shoulders of the previous, and
Absolutely.
then builds the edifice of society, right? And you're kind of doing that to a certain extent, that you're doing your contributions and,
If
building
I
the
may just,
this brick
so
by
sorry
brick.
to take,
Yeah,
you asked a very important question.
yeah.
So what motivates me is numbers. And numbers not in terms of bank balance, but numbers in terms of saying, can I do something that influences a large number of people in positive way, right? But a
Right.
large
Numbers
number
in terms
who are
of
not
impact. Yeah.
impact, right? Who are not related to me, who are not my friends, who don't know I exist. That allows you to do things, without any expectations, because really you are not known to the people who your work can impact. To me personally, that's a very powerful feeling. Doing things for people we know, we love, we care for is wonderful. But if you do it for all of humanity who don't know you exist, I think that
That's
is.
selfless. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So, on a parting note, what is your vision for an ideal world, and what message would you like to give it?
I think my mission for an ideal world is one in which wars simply can't happen. I'm just extremely upset and sad when I wake up to the news in Israel and
Mm-hmm.
Ukraine. It bothers me. I can't do anything about it. It's
Mm-hmm.
way beyond us, but it bothers me. As long as there are wars, everything we do as a humanity to develop gets pulled down.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the sustainable development goals, right? One. Two, I believe that investment in science is absolutely necessary so that healthcare can become a universal goal for the world. It should be like saying that you have running water coming
Yeah.
into your house. Wow, really?
Yeah.
Like it's on here, right? I don't sit back thinking, wow, I turn on the lights on.
Mm-hmm.
Why is healthcare, universal healthcare, such a big deal even in 2024? When we have such advanced societies like the United States, Western Europe, even India that's advancing. So my goal, because I'm so health focused, is in my lifetime, will universal health coverage become a reality?
Yeah.
So we don't let many people behind, right? Billions who are left behind. If universal health coverage comes, the humanity's age will improve, the quality of life will improve. People can do many more productive things
Yeah.
because they're more healthy and productive. So that's the world I imagine.
Excellent. And perhaps many more Anands will be born to take the other causes and this cause further, right? So, wow, Anand, I'm truly stumped by all the activities you do. I don't know how you do them. And I really appreciate you and acknowledge you for making time for me and my viewers, who I'm sure will consume your wisdom with fervor. I wish you the best of luck for future endeavors. Please stay in touch. And I'd really like to thank you and take care, please. Yeah.
Likewise, Upesh, it is an absolute honor, privilege to meet with you again. You have done such extensive background search on the subject, and I appreciate that. And really lovely questions. I enjoyed chatting with you, and I wish you, your family, and all of your viewers all the very best.
Thank you, Anand.